Young Thug is his probation. If you don't know, Young Thug is on like 15-year probation or some crazy thing like that. The state of Georgia has now filed for Young Thug's probation to be revoked. Okay, they've filed a motion for the revocation of his probation. I'm gonna tell you why. So this is the document here, and actually, let me just go to Thugger Daily because they've actually done a pretty good job in like covering all this. But let's see. Oh, wow. Fonnie Willis is even talking about this. Fonnie Willis would not go down lightly, people. She is still going hard. Fonnie Willis I told you she was going to win her thing, like, get reelected as DA. She's not going down lightly. Here we go. No, give me one second. Where is it? Okay, here we go. So this is the motion here, and the state of Georgia has filed this motion versus Jeffrey Williams. Basically, and everything with probation will go in front of Judge Paige Whitaker, which people have now colloquially called her YSL Whitaker because she basically seemingly really fucks with Thug. She gave him the lightest probation. She said, "Oh, you can't come to Atlanta." Then she switched it up. She kind of fucks with them, and also she was cussing out the prosecutors the entire time, right? So now this is the motion to revoke the probation, right? So it's going to go in front of this judge. This judge is going to have to hear it and then decide, will it get revoked? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think, especially since this is the first motion, that it will be revoked. But what usually happens is, as a judge, if the prosecutor continues to come, like, for example, in the pause on that, by the way, continues to come. For example, in the Meek Mill case, once the DA kept coming back saying he's violating, the judge at some point had to take some action, and that's how Meek Mill got incarcerated. So usually when the state is coming with a motion to revoke probation, it will get a couple hearings, but it's very unlikely that on first hearing they're going to be like, okay, give this nigga 15 years in jail. Like, that's a heavy, thing. You're taking away his freedom for like 15 years. So now it says, comes now the state of Georgia, by and through the undersigned counsel, and moves this honorable court to immediately revoke the probation of defendant Jeffrey Williams. The defendant has demonstrated a blatant disregard for the law, safety of witnesses, and integrity for the judicial proceedings. Okay? So they're saying that Young Thug is playing in the face of the court. The state submits that a defendant's continued presence in the community under probationary supervision presents a clear and present danger to public safety and undermines the rule of law. Here's the background of what they're saying. So on October 31st, 2024, Jeffrey Williams was sentenced to probation with conditions that include no contact with the victim or the victim's family. The defendant pleaded guilty, and the condition of probation was imposed. Okay? Whatever. Let's keep going. They're saying investigator Marissa Viverito. Now, this is very important, chat. And this is where you guys have to understand. So there's someone named Marissa Viverito, okay? This person was a undercover cop. Actually, when they testified in a hearing, cameras are allowed in Fulton County, but they made sure the cameras did not video her. Why? Because she supposedly does undercover things for a gang unit. Now, what she testified to and spoke to is a case that we're going to get to right after this. It's related to the Little Baby 4PF shit. So 4PF are beefing with these guys called OMF, which is part of this like bigger like gang called like Goodfellas. And those guys, some of them got indicted federally. And what happened is that in another charge that some of these OMF guys caught, which was a retaliation shooting with remember when Lil Baby shot the music video in that hood? These guys, they shot up the music video that Lil Baby was at. Allegedly, some 4PF dudes went to go shoot a nigga to retaliate, and then they came back to spin back on Lil Baby, or not Lil Baby, let's just say 4PF, but then they shot 2 kids. And when they shot 2 kids, all bets are off. They arrested a bunch of OMF dudes. Apparently, they've been tracking these guys for a while, and in the preliminary hearing, because these guys haven't gotten grand juried yet in terms of indicted, apparently the indictments are on the way because the government was realizing OMF. And remember, so this OMF thing and 4PF is like YSL and what is it called? YFN. So Lucci and Thug. Remember, both YFN and YSL got indicted. So essentially, the grand jury hasn't returned an indictment yet. That's why the prosecutor's office thinks that both OMF and 4PF is going to get indicted. That's why they're putting baby into this, right? I'm just giving you the details. So they haven't gotten indicted yet. What actually happens and I've told you about the indictment process, a grand jury indicts, right? Before then, that's not the only way to get people arrested. You could get a complaint. That's on the federal level. But also, there's a different way, which is kind of like a complaint on the state level. They lock these dudes up. Why? Because they shot the kid. You can't kill kids, right? However, they went to court and the court says, well, show us the reason why these guys are locked up and are going to face these serious charges, because they're going to bring gang charges. And that's when they bring the investigators and they play wiretaps. The investigator that was supposed to be undercover is someone named Marissa Viverito. Okay? Marissa Viverito. Now, she's been identified because people were in court and noticed her and they immediately doxed her. Okay? But she was testifying. It was supposed to be private. She testified to a few things. Yo, these OMF dudes are beefing with 4PF. We got wiretaps. So this is how you know an indictment definitely is coming. If they spent money on wiretaps, that means they're really locked in. Do you get what I'm saying? They really are in, like they're locked in to see what's going on. They're basically saying, we heard on one of the wiretaps, the OMF dude saying, little baby got tickets on niggas' heads. What is a ticket? He got a price on certain people getting knocked off. Okay? So again, we haven't seen indictments yet, but clearly they're on the way. Now, what ended up happening is that, and by the way, let me play this. Chat, I'm giving you the whole story. By the way, again, if you guys just got here, we definitely, okay. We might get Dave Blunts on here. Oh, that's crazy. That's great. We might get Dave Blunts on here. Amazing. Okay. So, chat, what was happening, and let me see if I could bring this up. Essentially, this is what they played in court. It was a wiretap. Now, remember this. Once the wiretap go out, once they're playing the wiretap in court, the investigation damn near is over. Because the feds are revealing their hand. We had your phone wiretapped. This is the wiretap. Check it out.
Oh, what's up, huh? Oh, what's going on? Man, like, come on, bro. You know what's finna go on. Like, how the hell you can, you know what I'm saying?
They ain't even like that, man. Them got tickets on a lot of these folks. I'm telling you.
We just heard somebody say these folks got tickets on these people. We know what's going on. First of all, who was that said that about the tickets?
The unidentified male that was being...
That's Marissa Viverito speaking. So they're playing a wiretap, and she's decoding it as the gang expert, who also goes undercover.
Referred to as Unc.
And he's speaking with Mr. Sanders.
Correct.
And what, in your experience, do you know what tickets are?
A price on somebody's head.
What do you mean by what do you mean on somebody's head? What is that?
Like a bounty.
Okay. To have them arrested?
Harmed. Or
And who were they referring to in that portion of the call?
they were saying that they had heard that Dominique Jones had tickets on a lot of people's heads.
Dominique Jones is Lil Baby.
Dominique Jones wanted to have people harmed.
Correct.
All right, moving on.
Oh, what's up, huh?
Oh, what's going on?
I'll let you hear it again.
Man, them
Like, come on, bro, you know what finna go on. Like, how the hell you can, you know what I'm saying?
They ain't even like that, man. Them got tickets on a lot of these folks. I'm telling you.
We just heard somebody say.
Okay. Now, let's go back. So the reason why, and this is going to escalate very quickly. If you notice, let's go to Lil Baby's page. By the way, all this is going to all mix in together. This is going to be really messy, chat. Lil Baby did post on a story, but you notice he ain't posting nothing. And I don't know who this person is, but we can click on her. She is, I guess they're doing some Don Julio collab or whatever. Okay, this is Baby at a Don Julio collab with, oh, I know this guy. This is David Grutman. He owns half of Miami. I think he owned Club Live. He owned all that shit. You know what I mean? Club Live, Komodo, all that shit. Okay. So Lil Baby really ain't saying nothing, but I'm going to be honest with you. I think Lil Baby at this point has to be preparing for the worst. So, again, going back to this, they lock up some OMF dudes for shooting kids when they were trying to shoot 4PF niggas, okay? They're waiting on the indictment because the government basically say we have an indictment coming that's kind of like a RICO on these guys because they've been doing a lot of fuck shit. And based on that, people are saying, well, if you're going to indict them, you got to indict their ops. Their ops is 4PF. The person who testified, because the indictment hasn't came down, is the investigator, Marissa Vivierdo. They played the wiretaps where people are saying people got tickets on people's heads, which they're now trying to say is Baby. And now, here's the thing. Investigator Marissa Vivierdo is currently testifying in a multi-gang murder indictment. So let me backtrack a little bit. I'll backtrack a little bit. What Young Thug did to have and this is how you know this 4PF shit is real. Young Thug posted the woman. This is Marissa Vivierdo. He said, biggest liar in the DA office. He posted her. Okay? And then he also reposted, all my homies hate Vivierdo. Now, this is someone who is a officer of the law. This is someone who is a government official. When you do that and you're under probation, the government is going to be like, oh, are you sending a smoke signal that people should hurt this woman? That's why they're doing a motion to revoke his shit. Why did he do this? Because she's testifying in the OMF case and she's basically saying, yo, OMF and 4PF, Lil Baby and them, they're beefing and niggas is dying and indictment's finna come down. So Young Thug, I don't know why he did this. He tweeted her out. He should have left this alone. So that's why they're revoking it. Investigator Marissa Vivierdo is currently testifying in a multi-defendant gang murder preliminary hearing, which remains ongoing and is set to reconvene on Monday. During this hearing, the court explicitly ordered that the witnesses not be shown on television while testifying. Despite this order, a known blogger deliberately violated the court's directive by posting on social media she doesn't want to be shown on screen. Well, here she is, along with a photo of investigator Vivierdo. On Tuesday, April 1st, Jeffrey Williams. Oh, yeah, I can't see. I'm sorry. Okay. On Tuesday, April 1st, Jeffrey Williams, a.k.a. Young Thug, amplified this act by reposting an image with the caption, Marissa Vivierdo is the biggest liar in the DA's office. To basically equate this to something you may understand. Imagine being on probation and saying, fuck the court, fuck the clerk, or fuck somebody that's working in the court system. It's not smart, and I don't know why Young Thug would do it. However, he did. He said, Marissa Vivierdo is the biggest liar in the DA's office. It says this post went quickly viral, amassing 2 million views with thousands of comments and retweets, many of which include direct threats to investor Vivierdo and her family. Here's the direct threats. It says a direct consequence of these social media posts, Vivierdo's home address and her parents' home address were publicly posted, exposing them to grave danger. And by the way, you're going to see it in Exhibit A. One post stated, if the hate is really real, then pull up on her mama's crib, alongside a photograph of her mother's residence. You'll be able to see that too. Hours later, an additional post emerged threatening the assassination of the district attorney, Fonnie Willis. The escalation from targeting a testifying witness to making a direct death threat against the elected district attorney of Fulton County is a grave and unprecedented attack on the justice system. It says this is not an isolated incident. It's part of a calculated campaign of intimidation, harassment, and misinformation designed to undermine the legal process. Social media has been used as a tool to manipulate public perception, spread misinformation, and instill fear. These efforts have also included attempts to exploit the court's perceived stance of disdain towards the state by referring to Your Honor as YSL Whitaker. Remember, the judge who gave Thug this very favorable sentence, her name is Paige Whitaker. So her name is Judge Paige Whitaker. But because she was so down, you know what niggas say? YSL Whitaker, which is the judge, okay? It's the judge, right? So they're even saying to the judge, yo, this shit is so tainted, they're calling you a YSL member. What the fuck? Here we go. This ongoing manipulation and public perception through social media is intended to obstruct justice, silence witness, and threaten those who enforce law. So here's a legal basis where they're given for revocation. They're saying the defendant's continued association with individuals actively involved in witness intimidation, threats of violence, and obstruction of justice constitutes a clear violation of probation conditions. These acts mirror the established tactics of criminal organizations as defined, blah, blah, blah. Georgia courts have consistently upheld the revocation of probation for conduct that endanger witnesses, obstructs justice, or threaten public officials. Failure to act decisively will only encourage further attempts to threaten, harass, and intimidate those who were involved in the case. The state asserts that not addressing this matter directly with the defendant would fail to serve as an adequate deterrent, given the gravity and escalating nature of these threats. Furthermore, as both the defendant and this court acknowledged during the plea and sentencing, the defendant wields significant influence over people worldwide, amplifying his potential impact of actions. Okay? No need for revocation. It says the integrity of this court and safety for those involved in the prosecution are at stake. The defendant's probation should be immediately revoked to prevent harm, ensure compliance with the law, and send a clear message that witness intimidation and threats against public officials will not be tolerated. The state urges this court to take swift and decisive action by revoking the defendant's probation and remanding them into custody without delay. Okay? By the way, this letter was submitted by Fonnie Willis. Okay? It says, conclusion, wherefore the state of Georgia respectfully requests this court schedule a hearing to address the immediate revocation or modification of the defendant's probation as it deems appropriate, and order the defendant to reimburse the costs incurred by law enforcement and for the additional protective measures necessitated by their actions. So they probably gave her a security detail because of this, and they want Thug to pay for it. And impose any further sanctions necessary to safeguard the witnesses, prosecutors, and integrity of the judicial process. Now, here's Exhibit A. Apparently, this is the blogger that did it. Infamous Sylvia, who said this is her testimony, so she doxed her. Then, here's Thug's tweet. Then, Thug again, when he retweeted, "Oh, my homies hate her." Then someone else put this on Instagram and said, "Dumbass used to live at altitude and got my Airbnb shut down." Right? And then some random person says, if the hate is real, then pull up to her mama crib. And they actually put her mama's crib. They do black out the address. Then Exhibit B is them saying someone random, but they're saying that these people are listening to Young Thug. I'll personally make sure Fonnie Willis is damn, okay? And this is just a transcript to kind of like explain what's going on. So essentially, they want Young Thug back in jail. I don't believe that he will be incarcerated. I don't believe that his probation will be revoked, which means that he would have to serve over 10 plus years in prison. What I think what will happen is that they're going to stiffen some of the measures. Hey, whether it's maybe tweeting, even though that becomes an interesting thing because you're trying to inflict or infringe on his First Amendment.